The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Aesop's Fables by Rob Chrysal. Once there lived a shepherd boy who despised his dull profession. His job was to alert the town when wolves would show aggression. One Saturday in late July, he thought it would be hilarious to stand at pasture's edge and shout, "A wolf! Come quick! It's precarious!" The people came from all around with pitchforks, poles, and sharpened scythes, and as they looked about for wolves, hot tears of laughter filled his eyes. The boy adored his prank so much he did it every other day. When citizens from town would come, "Ha ha, fooled you," was all he'd say. Until a wolf at last appeared. "A wolf!" the boy yelled, crying. But this time people stayed at home. They thought that he was lying. The wolf ate several lambs that day and slinked away with a grin. From that day forth, the shepherd boy never cried wolf again. If you're a liar and try to deceive, when you tell the truth, they'll never believe.
Hello, we're students at Texas Women's University in Denton, Texas, and we'd like to welcome you to our podcast. Under the direction of Professor Chris Hart, 23 seniors came together to provide you with this educational, engaging, and insightful content encompassing all things related to lying and deceit. All materials discussed is backed by research of the current literature in deception. We will tackle topics like why do people lie, the psychology behind famous fraudsters, and even practice our own lie detection skills. There are a lot of things in store, and we really hope you enjoy listening as much as we've enjoyed creating this podcast. Without further ado, welcome to Lies, Lies, Lies.
Hi everyone, my name is Laurel and I am a psychology major here at Texas Women's.
Hi, my name's Alicia and I too am a psychology major at Texas Women's University.
Hey, I'm Juliet, also a psychology major here at TWU. The three of us, Laurel, Alicia, and myself, are the producers of this podcast you're listening to. And we're here in Dr. Hart's office hoping to pick his brain a little bit as he is the expert on lying and deception. Dr. Hart, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I'm Chris Hart. I'm a professor of psychology at Texas Women's University. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's and a PhD in experimental psychology, and I've been a professor at Texas Women's University for 17 years, I believe.
Yeah, that's really great. So we talked a little bit about, the class and hosting this seminar. So in the past, we've talked a little bit about some of these classes have, written a book as a class or, done other different projects within class. And we decided to do a podcast for ours as a class. So what was your initial thought on us choosing a podcast? Kind of how did you feel about that? And what do you think some of the outcomes of us doing a podcast instead of a different type of media to get all this information out into the world will be?
Well, when you all decided you wanted to do a podcast, I was really excited. And I think one of the reasons I was excited is you all seemed very enthusiastic about it. And I think if you can get a bunch of people who are really enthusiastic about anything, they're almost invariably going to do something really exciting and fun and interesting. And so I was excited for that reason. And so I thought the idea of presenting the knowledge you all were accumulating into a format where you could get it out into the world where people would gravitate toward it was really exciting for me. I think it's fun when students make something that other people want to see. Which is, I think, ultimately what we're all trying to do in life is have some impact that other people find valuable. And so to see y'all working really hard to put something like that together is really fun for me.
We've been having a blast.
Yeah, like I think like one of the first things that I noticed whenever we went to your class this semester was just like how unorthodox the choice of doing our final project was. You don't hear about this in other classes. So I was like, OMG, this is going to be really cool.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're seeing it that way. I feel like that's kind of my job. Like I teach, but the majority of my job is I show up and the taxpayers of the state of Texas say, you can now do whatever you want, just do something cool. And so having that freedom allows you to pick things that are fun. When something's fun, you want to stay up till 10 p.m. working on it. Like it doesn't feel forced. And so
we've all done that already.
So I'm glad y'all are enjoying it.
Would you say that there's a gap somewhere in this research, or is there something that we don't know that we ought to know?
Yeah, well, I think it's like any scientific discipline, we've really only scratched the surface, and I think it's especially true in the field of psychology. Like the fact that we can't readily predict who's going to lie or who is lying is a pretty telling gap, So if we can't address some of those fundamentals around lying, then it suggests that we still have a long way to go. I think another gap or area that I think deserves more treatment is why people lie. And when we look at why people lie, the majority of the lying is around saving face and avoiding embarrassment and trying to craft a picture of ourselves because we're ashamed or embarrassed or fearful about what would happen if people saw the real version of us. But I think that's really interesting because what we found in our research is that when people are extremely honest, life actually unfolds better for them. They tend to have stronger relationships. People like them more. They feel more at ease. And so I think a lot of people are doing, a fair amount of lying that it turns out is not only unnecessary, but is ultimately undermining what they hope to achieve in life, which is to have good relationships and a sense of contentment.
So you're saying maybe white lies are not as beneficial as we tend to think they are?
I think most lies are not as beneficial as we think they are. I think when it comes to white lies, especially, people really underestimate how resilient people are.
Right. So do you say you're a pretty honest person since doing your research?
Not since doing my research, but I feel like I am a pretty honest person. And I think definitely more honest than I was. I think, most teenagers, I was doing a lot of bad stuff when I was a teenager. And so lying was kind of really important to be able to do what I wanted to do without, repercussions. I think I was, as a young adult, probably a lot more shy and didn't have a very strong sense of self and was concerned about what other people thought about me. And so I think I was probably not nearly as honest back then for those reasons. But I met some people, during my early adulthood who were a lot more, or at least seemed to be a lot more honest than I was. And I really admired them. They seemed courageous almost in how open they would be. And everyone seemed to love them for it. And that really kind of opened my eyes that you can show people the embarrassing and shameful and maybe even dangerous things about yourself. And a lot of people will really still love you and appreciate you for who you are, despite having those things. And actually appreciate having a friend who's that genuine.
And now to finish us off and get us kickstarted into the rest of these episodes, we would love to play 2 truths and a lie. So, Dr. Hart, would you do us the honors of giving us 2 truths and 1 lie, and we will try and detect which one is the lie. Now, listeners, y'all play along too and see if we can figure out which one is Dr. Hart's lie.
I almost died on a mountain climbing trip in Iceland.
Ooh.
Until 2 years ago, I performed ballet at least once a year for the preceding 20 years.
Oh my god, I hope that's true.
I flew an airplane right before I came here for this podcast.
I actually feel like that's true.
Look at his legs. They're very, toned.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Oh my God. Look at his shoes.
I've been waiting to hear that for years.
That just made his whole day. His whole life, actually. All right, so...
Say something else nice about it.
Keep going. Just keep going. Don't stop. Woo! Wow. Anyways, so the way that I usually figure out this game is, the craziest one is usually true because it's really hard to come up with something that crazy.
Those were all pretty crazy.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think that he almost died. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm thinking that he did ballet, but I also think he was flying a plane this morning. I don't know, y'all.
He couldn't have. I don't think so. It's a great day, though.
I really...
I'm gonna
think you've been a ballerina.
I'm gonna go with Iceland. Why not? You might as well pick the plane.
Yeah, one of us will be right.
One of us will be right.
It is not true. I've never been a ballerina.
I was
Dang
hoping
it.
it was true, though.
Do you exercise? Is it the hiking?
I exercise,
Okay.
Oh,
which
that's why you were
accounts
commenting on his
counts for
face.
my exceptionally toned legs.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
why I thought you were a ballerina.
Nope.
Well, Dr. Hart, thank you so much for your time. This has been such a wonderful conversation. Is there anything else that you would like to add or anything to kind of get our listeners' brains, excited for what is to come in the next episodes or just anything else that you want for the world to know?
Well, I think having heard the topics of all the podcasts, I think there's a lot of variety, and all of them sound really, really interesting. And so I think this series of podcasts will probably be of interest to most people. And I hope y'all have a really fun time making it. And I want to thank you very much for having me on the podcast this morning, and had a great time chatting with y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we are so excited for all of our listeners to tune in for the rest of Lies, Lies, Lies.